today, with the group at all today, we saw two county sheriffs, we saw Keenanville cops, we saw Keenanville cops, firemen, Newton County EMS, coming into Jacksonville, we had Monson County, we had North Carolina Highway Patrol Police for a while, and then the Jacksonville City Police Department has also been on board to make this all happy safe, keep these runners safe, and make sure we don't hold our money without the food tonight has been provided through donations from local restaurants. If you live in the area, please patronize Texas Roadhouse, out on Green Boulevard. They're amazing. Logan's Roadhouse, out on Western. The Smithfields, over here at Dock Road, and both are out on Green Boulevard. That's where watching today, I've cried all day, just so y'all know I'm a crier, and I've literally cried all day. We left Millville, and I was sobbing. Okay, we worked with us from Millville. They had a fire truck in the middle of the road. They had the armor suited and the American flag out there on the road, and the runners ran underneath. It was amazing. Town hall was shut down, and all the town's workers were standing on the side of the road watching that presentation that happened. Jamie is the police chief there, and I am Mr. Roy. Without further ado, if you want to know our members this, and then the way they do that is with the product they have to sell. So if you can, and if you will, stop by the way to go home, see something on our member people, because this is grassroots. You're all volunteers. We do this because we love America. We love the school program. We love the stuff. Without further ado,
I really didn't want them to stand there for the next 20 minutes. Attention, relaxing. Wow. Thank you, Lisa, for an amazing, you go there. Lisa, for an amazing, organization and Kathy's team for pulling together, North Carolina. It's been a long time coming, and I know that since we've started this mission back in April, North Carolina was our 18th state, and as we were ticking off states, I know Kathy was going, they're getting closer, they're getting closer, they're getting closer, and so here we are, 112 days later. At this moment in time, which, has been incredibly exhausting. I've seen most of the faces here already over the last couple of days. Most everybody has heard me speak and knows the story pretty much. I'm going to just fast forward a lot of it because everybody's tired. I know that. It's just been an amazing adventure, but that adventure really started 10 years ago when the Organization of Honor Remember was founded to bring national public remembrance to our nation. And how did we think that would best be done? By bringing a national symbol to our country, a symbol by which, with sole purpose, was to say thank you, and not just in remembrance of those that gave their lives in military service, but primarily for the families that are still left behind. The Byers family isn't here, but we honored their son earlier this morning. And as I got a chance to talk to Mr. Byers, I found out that he had known a friend of mine from several years ago whose sons knew each other. And then when his son was killed, that friend of his reached out, told him about Honor and Remember, and said, hey, you need to call, he gave him my name, you need to call him and talk to him because he's got an organization that's honoring, an honoring organization, and he never did. And so this was 2.5 years ago, and here he was this morning, and he just showed up, and he, all of a sudden, in the parking lot this morning, that all clicked to him, and he went, oh my gosh, you were the guy I was supposed to call. And it was just an amazing emotional moment. But one of the things he said, as I said, it's our honor to be here and to do this for you. He said, I just had to be here. I just had to take the time to come down and hear my son being honored. He said, I've gotten so many gifts, over the years. He said, I just wanted to be here and to be able to appreciate, those that were giving back. And really that was the whole reason the Honor and Remember organization was founded. It was founded because after about 2 years of grieving for myself, I was tired of getting things. The Gold Star families will understand that, after initially, there's a lot of giving. There's a lot of mail, people are mailing stuff. They're mailing cards and quilts and photographs, and everybody's different, I know. But there's this glomming initially when people hear about your loss. And then after a while, that all kind of dissipates. But after a couple of years of being in a fog and kind of going through this grieving process, I realized that really what families need is to know that their loved one is not forgotten. And that's really the bottom line. All the gifts in the world, are in a sense a reminder of the loss. But really what they all need is that we're going to remember them. And families do really a great job of remembering on their own because they're trying to keep their loved ones' names alive. So there's scholarship programs out there, there's 5Ks, there's motorcycle runs, there's everything you can imagine to help keep the name of that individual loved one alive. And many of you, if you haven't shown me your tattoos already, I know even the tattoos, that permanent emblazing of remembrance is on many of us. So it was a gift. I didn't want to get any more gifts. I wanted to give a gift. And I thought that the only thing, as I said, that was important, in the long run, is that that loved one is not forgotten. And so the Honor and Remember flag became a love gift, if you will, not just for the names that were lost, but for every family that was still grieving in America. So when they saw this flag flying, they would know that that flag was flying for them. It was flying by someone who understood the meaning and purpose of that symbol, and they put it on a flagpole. Maybe they knew a Gold Star family, maybe they didn't. But even if you know one, do you know 2? Do you know 10? Do you know 100? Do you know 1,000? Most of us don't. But they're out there. They're out there in every fabric of our community. And how do we send a message to them all? There wasn't any way that I could find. And this flag became that national message. Fast forward, to 2 years ago, and we thought, okay, what else could we do as an organization? How can we make a big message sent to America that's more than the flag itself? But let's remember those individuals by name who gave their lives. So what do you do in that regard? Well, we thought the best way of doing that was to create a journey across America by which if we could locate every fallen service member's name that died during the War on Terror, in this contemporary time when most of us are at least engaged and know the War on Terror as a word. We may not know exactly, most of them, what's going on with it, but they've heard the term. And we could identify every one of those men and women comprehensively, exhaustively, as best we could, and then make a plan to say their names out loud and start broadcasting that message across America. Hey, look what we're doing. We are honoring every single service man or woman who gave their life in the last 18 years. One of the biggest, probably craziest idea that we could come up with. So we took the date, October 12, 2000, the bombing of the USS Cole. And we thought, let's identify every single name that we can. So we contacted the Department of Defense, the Department of the Army, the Department of the Navy, many other organizations that are working with Gold Star, the Gold Star community, and we started to gather names. And we've been gathering names for the last 2.5 years. But then we had to put them on a trail, because what we wanted to do is to make sure that none of them were forgotten and that each one would be respectfully and reverently remembered across the entire United States. So we came up with a number that at that time, 2.5 years ago, was a little lower, but has now grown to over 20,000 names. And those are all the names of those that died while serving, regardless of the circumstances, while serving, or as a result of serving, even including those that died from the hidden wounds of post-traumatic stress. And I have found in the last month or so, more families that have come out that have lost their loved ones to post-traumatic stress than probably of any other type of casualty, which has been amazing to me, to be able to meet those families and love on those families and cry with those families. So we took those 20,000 names, we put them into a database, and then we broadcast it out to as many places as we could through Gold Star communities, through the military. We sent out postcards. We did everything that we knew physically to do. And we asked people to go to our website and look for their hero and make sure that they were there. And if they weren't there, they could add them. And this is how we started growing this database. Started adding more and more names. We just added another casualty list from the DoD, or Department of the Army, yesterday. So we were creating in our minds what was the most comprehensive fallen veteran tribute ever compiled. I think we have a list that rivals now the Department of Defense, because I've even found from talking to other families that even the list that we had gotten, that we've been sorting and organizing, didn't even include names that they should have. So the only way many of these families' loved ones have gotten on there is by coming and searching. And then what we did was we took those names and we organized them by their unique dates of death, because we had to have a manageable order of honor. And starting with the USS Cole as our first date of death, and then every day or mile after that was the next unique date of death across the nation. So we've been running in chronological order to this point right here in Jacksonville, where we're running in December of 2016. This is how far we've come, from 2000 to December of 2016 at this moment in time. And I know that many of you already know what we do. We stop at a hero's location. We come to attention. We ask if there are any Gold Star families present. Many of you today were at those markers, and you know that we then proceed to read the names of those who died on that particular date of death. We plant a set of flags to touch the ground for each name of that on the placard of that individual. And then when we're done, we come to attention, we render honors with a hand salute or a hand over our heart. And then we pick up the next placard for the next date of death and the next set of names, and we move on across the state. Today we ran 52 hero markers for 139 heroes. But this is our 112th day of running. 112 days through 18 states. And we have physically read out loud the names of 18,841 service members to this moment tonight. 18,841. I don't know that this kind of tribute has ever been done, has ever been attempted, but we will be running through to August the 5th, where we'll stop Arlington National Cemetery, where we will read out loud the last name of the last service member who gave their life up to that moment. It has been a trail that has been amazingly exalted. I can't even begin to tell you. I think right now I'm on autopilot, because our crew, even though we pick up local runners and we get re-energized as we meet new families, can you imagine 8 to 10 hours a day of the physicality of running, 8 to 10 minute miles in the heat, the blistering heat, in the pouring down torrential rain, in the high winds, sometimes carrying flags at 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. The only thing we hesitate for is lightning. And even in the lightning we run, but we put the flags down because we don't want to be conductors. So safety is our main concern, but we get up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. We prepare to run, and at 7 a.m. we are at whatever location our start point is, and sometimes that start point is 40 miles away. So wherever we could find a place to sleep, we then have to get up, prepare ourselves, and drive whatever that distance is, and be there to start on time every single day. And then we're running 8 to 10 hours a day, and then we're having an evening ceremony, right, where we want to make sure that message is shared with whoever is with us. And then we have to do things before we go to sleep to prepare for the next morning. And that cycle has started and stopped every day for these 112 days. It's kind of bittersweet as we see that we only have 9 days left, because we have created an enlarging family, if we can look at it that way. Because not only do we have our core team that has been with us from the beginning, but every time we meet another family member, another team runner, our family enlarges. And we get to share that message, with those that are here, and we hope that you're sharing that message to those outside of here. Because one of the things that we had hoped was that America would would follow us on our live feed, at the very least, and hear and see us honoring these men and women, every one of these men and women across our huge, vast United States. I'm going to put a little punctuation on our journey. And this is a flag, many of you have seen it, some of you may not have seen it. But this is a flag that we have carried with us since day one. And this is a flag that has been signed only by the Gold Star families that we have encountered. Not by any runners, not by any supporters, but only by the Gold Star families that we have met on the side of the road or have come to an end-of-day ceremony throughout our entire journey. These are the families that have been able to take the time to find us. And sometimes that can be difficult. And meet us either in the morning, at the end of the day, but certainly on the side of the road where we have called their names out loud. They have taken it upon themselves to travel thousands of miles, because we've had families come to California from Florida, and from North Carolina, and Arizona from Pennsylvania, and today from, I can't even remember, Florida and other states. Just to be on the side of the road for us to say the name of their loved one for 30 seconds. 30 seconds of their own resources, sometimes driving tens of hours, to be on a 2-lane road with no shoulder for 30 seconds. How important is it? Do you think that these families and those families I'm just talking to you about, that you already have the answer to that, need to be reminded that they lost their loved one? Do you think that they need one more, tattoo or one more day of remembrance? Or do we need Memorial Day? I mean, really, these families, all of us, don't need any more reminders. We don't need them. We are already reminded in our hearts, right? So why are they here? Why are they here? Because somebody else has taken the time, and whatever effort that may mean, to be in a place, wherever that may be, in the middle of the Arizona desert, in the middle of the mountains of Temecula, wherever that may be, to call out their loved one's name. And if it means that much to them, those who have given their loved ones so that we can all enjoy the freedom that we have, so that everybody else in America doesn't have to give their loved ones, the least we can do is say thank you, is appreciate that. And we hope that the gift of this flag across America is the biggest appreciation that we could come up with, and taking those moments to call these names out loud is one of the biggest moments that we can take to make sure that we haven't forgotten. And we will never forget. I don't know how many names are on there. And if you haven't signed this as a Gold Star family, please sign it tonight before you leave. I don't know how many names are on here. We'll figure that out. I guarantee you there's hundreds. And we have hugged every single one of them.
I was at Captain Eloise's memorial, and I kept putting my eyes just like, wow. Thank you.
So, thank you, Dan. One of the things that we do every single night, it's obviously as important as what we do during the day, is we reread the names of those that we ran for the day. If we 18,000 would be a big number. So we want to re-honor those that we ran for during the day. I mentioned to you that was 139 service members today. And why do we reread them? Because they deserve to be remembered. And I guess we're not reading 20,000 names, we're reading 40,000 names. But because it's really noisy, and those of you that are out there on the road today, you may not have heard all that noise, but if we had the live feed going and you were trying to listen, you might not have heard all of the name or every name on a list because of a Mack truck going by, or sirens, or whatever, the wind, or the rain, or whatever that may be that block that sound. So we want to make sure that in a very quiet environment, as quiet as possible, we reread those names. And we're broadcasting this again as a live feed so that the families who may be watching us will hear their loved one's name. But also because those families aren't here, and we don't know who's watching us. There could be 2 people watching, or there could be 2,000 people watching. We have no idea. But we want to make sure that each name is properly remembered. And we don't always do the best at pronunciations, so forgive us, because we don't know the families, and we don't always have the right ethnicity, and we don't always get the names right. But we're doing the best that we can. And the point is that we're trying to honor in the manner that's most respectful. But the other reason that we read these names again is because everyone that's here with us who hasn't heard those names are able to stand in for the families who aren't here. And I emphasize this every night, and I don't know, maybe I'm a broken record sometimes, but if there's one person here who doesn't understand the message, and I can deliver that message in a way that they understand it, then I don't know who they will touch. And I want to make sure that everyone understands, at least from my words. And so we have an opportunity to stand in for those families. And as I've said many, many times, those families here that we have read this morning will be anticipating that we're going to be reading their names now. And I want everyone here, as they're listening to all 139 names, to listen as if they're your family's name. Because if those families are listening, or those families were here, they would be anticipating the hearing of their names as well. Now, we did some special things today. We called out some families who were not on our list, and because they were here with us. And we might not get to those names, but when we're done reading our names, I want those who are here in this room to have an opportunity to stand up and call out their loved one, or call out somebody that they knew, or somebody that may be dear to their heart. So I don't want anybody to be left out, or any service member not to be remembered tonight who has an opportunity. And that will be any generation, by the way. We're not just talking about the war on terror when we're calling out names at the end of the day. It can be any generation of fallen servicemen. So I'm going to ask Kristen, do you have... And Kristen will tell you that we've read 53 days of death. So far, we've read, I don't think I said that. 5,127 days of death to the end of today. 5,127. Kristen will bring you 53 days of death today. Those are only a short window of time, 53 days.
Closer so they can make sure we hear them on the camera. You gotta sit a little closer so they can hear them on the camera.
The dates that we ran for today were October 30th through December 24th, 2016. Lance Corporal Sebastian Borja Diaz, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Jordan Dwayne Marshall, United States Army. Specialist Vincent Stephen Olmsted, United States Marine Corps. Major Ian Campbell Brinkley, United States Marine Corps. Private First Class Grant Michael Hodge, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Matthew Ryan Sawyer, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant David Joseph Witcher, United States Army. Private First Class Thomas Carl Snyder, United States Army. Seaman Cole Xavier DeWalt, United States Navy. Major Andrew David Byers, United States Army. Private First Class Dakota Lee Stump, United States Army. Sergeant Renardo Deshoon Dukes, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Ryan Allen Gloyer, United States Army. Chief Petty Officer David Wayne Fries, United States Navy. Lance Corporal Nathaniel Lucas Souza, United States Marine Corps Reserve. Staff Sergeant James Francis Moriarty, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Kevin Joseph McEnroe, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Matthew Charles Llewellyn, United States Army. Colonel David Dean Banholzer, United States Air Force. Private First Class Zachary Robert Boland, United States Marine Corps.
Staff Sergeant Christopher Gene Frame, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 3rd Class Robert Wolfgang Fleck Steiner, United States Navy. Seaman Michael Andrew Raythier III, United States Navy. Specialist Luis Ricardo Casio, United States Army. Master Sergeant Kelly Ray Bartholomew, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Denny Doan Tran, United States Marine Corps. Petty Officer 3rd Class Howard Lee Griffin Jr., United States Navy. Technical Sergeant Jessica Ann Bonsack, United States Air Force. Technical Sergeant Nicholas William Heck, United States Air Force. Petty Officer 2nd Class Dylan Christopher Malone, United States Navy. Petty Officer 3rd Class Evan Trevor Williams, United States Navy. Master Sergeant Stephen Lynn Bailey, United States Army. Sergeant Christina Marie Sweely, United States Army. Senior Airman Chase Allen Gibson, United States Air Force. Seaman Roger Lee Lawson, Jr., United States Navy. Lieutenant Commander Robert Lee Page, United States Navy. Specialist Sonny Lee Farmer, United States Army Reserve National Guard. Air National Guard.
Fireman Stephen Oroville Bang, United States Navy. Sergeant Daniel Made Monadive, United States Army. Specialist Ronald L. Murray Jr., United States Army. Master Sergeant Philip Edward Benjamin, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Angelique Pawadasted Johnson, United States Marine Corps. Seaman Jean Paul Latore, United States Navy. Staff Sergeant Daniel Christopher Villarreal, United States Army. Sergeant First Class William Lee Ross, United States Army. Lieutenant Willie Mitchell Ramirez, United States Navy. Private First Class Tyler Ray Beelbelt, United States Army. Sergeant John W. Perry, United States Army. Private First Class Tyler R. Lubert, United States Army. Sergeant Kenneth Wayne Morris, United States Army. Captain Quentin Rogers Coons, United States Army. Senior Airman Zachariah James Trask, United States Air Force. Sergeant David Matthew Smith, United States Army. Master Sergeant Derek James Edmond, United States Air Force.
Lance Corporal Scott Gonzalez, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Michael Dylan Lopez, United States Marine Corps. Seaman Evan Blake Bell, United States Navy. Petty Officer First Class Charity Lynn Faulkner, United States Navy. Lieutenant Matt David Trout, United States Navy. Specialist Philip Cruz Medillin, United States Army. Captain Nathan Wayne Cross, United States Air Force. Major Darrell Ray Stutz, United States Air Force. Private First Class David Cheever Winchester, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Grant Logan Sheneman, United States Army. Private Kevin Paulino, United States Army. Sergeant Jesse Allen Zerwas, United States Army. Captain Andrew Craig Finley, United States Air Force. Petty Officer First Class Roland Edwin Tamayo, United States Navy. Sergeant First Class Christopher Eric King, United States Army. Specialist Corey Deontay James, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Thompson Connor Wolford III, United States Air Force.
Major Jarrett Joseph Fisher, United States Army. Seaman Nicholas James Murphy, United States Navy. Senior Airman Travis Lavelle Bennett, United States Air Force. Master Sergeant Greg Kakahui Ramos, United States Air Force. Sergeant First Class Alberto Mate Anover, United States Army. First Lieutenant Jonathan Michael Haas, United States Air Force. Airman Daniel Jason Paragoy, United States Air Force. Lance Corporal Michael Lane Gotcham, World's Finest, United States Marine Corps. Senior Chief Petty Officer Scott C. Dayton, United States Navy. Private First Class Gregory Allen Trimble, United States Army. Specialist Mark Eugene Jonigan Acito, United States Army. Specialist Acito Mark Jonigan, United States Army. Sergeant John Toombs, United States Army National Guard. Master Sergeant Erica Lynn Dacus, United States Army. First Lieutenant Michael James Valentine, United States Army. Sergeant Scott Christopher Atkins, United States Army.
Private Wanya Gervais Bruns, United States Army. Midshipman Jason Daniel Jelonsky, United States Navy. Specialist Bradley James Burkibble, United States Army. Petty Officer Second Class Alexander Timothy Cody, United States Navy. Specialist Chance Jared Daniel Richardson, United States Army. Lance Corporal David Andrew Linder, United States Marine Corps Reserve.
Corporal John Gregory Lasiski, World's Finest, United States Marine Corps. Specialist James Edward Shaver, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Ian Ryan Phillips, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Dominic Caesar Androni, World's Finest, United States Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Philip Michael Mosley, United States Army. Airman First Class Thomas Bradley, United States Air Force. Sergeant First Class Alan Brown, United States Army.
Sergeant First Class Robert Lee Augustus, United States Army. Major Jason Scott Jones, United States Army. Private First Class Jonathan Lee Robert, United States Army. Petty Officer First Class Ruby Christine Perez, United States Navy. Captain James Edward Frederick, United States Marine Corps. Lance Corporal Tamir George Hilliard, United States Marine Corps. Senior Airman Bryce Garrett Bain, United States Air Force. Staff Sergeant Crystal Close, United States Air Force. Senior Airman Veridana Montez, United States Air Force. Captain David Lee Peterson, United States Army.
Lance Corporal Nicole Belladin Bridges, United States Marine Corps. Major David Judd Goodall, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Second Class John Clay Drost, United States Navy. First Lieutenant William Joshua Powell, United States Army. Sergeant Sean Charles Montgomery, United States Army. Private First Class Thomas Russell Moore, United States Army. Sergeant First Class Kurt Chad Sathoff, United States Army. Staff Sergeant William Paul Shrine, United States Army. Private First Class Logan Scott Cody, United States Army. Lieutenant Benjamin Kirk Frederick, United States Navy. Chief Warrant Officer 3, Rawl Nathan Fimbres, United States Army.
Lance Corporal Mark Joseph Iwaz Kies Wicks, United States Marine Corps. Corporal Devin Robert Strout, United States Marine Corps. Sergeant Christopher Ivan Roberts, United States Army. Private First Class Joshua David Day, United States Army. Specialist Jason Quinte Garner, United States Army. Captain Corey Joseph McLeod, United States Air Force. Sergeant Andrew Theodore Campbell, United States Army. Petty Officer Ramiro Vasquez Rivera, United States Navy. Specialist Nisawat Robert Henry Latender, United States Army. Sergeant Noah Maxwell Herder Leffler, United States Army. Lieutenant Colonel Gregory Calvin Moser, United States Army. Private First Class Paige Elizabeth Briles, United States Army. Sergeant Leffler Noah Herder, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Justin Douglas Cochran, United States Air Force. Petty Officer Samuel Justin Allen Geiseking, United States Navy.
139 service members, over 53 unique dates of death. Before we close this portion, I said I would give everyone an opportunity to call out loud the name of one of their loved ones or someone they knew, someone they served with. It doesn't matter. But just to give a moment of honor, to add to those that we have read. We're going to kind of sweep across the room here. If you just want to raise your hand, no pressure. It's a powerful thing to say a name out loud, and sometimes can be pretty difficult. So, anyone on this side? Yes, sir.
My grandpa, my mother's father, Dwayne Shriver, and my uncle, and a good friend of this gentleman here, Tommy Sharp, the Army and the Marine Corps.
Sergeant Andrew Ryan Cross.
United States Army National Guard. Yes, sir.
Daniel Dykstra, our son, Montana National Guard.
Anyone in the middle? No? Here? Yes, sir.
Second class, Clayton Ross Beach.
Thank you. On the end.
Midshipman third class, Hans Paul Bowen, United States Navy. Midshipman first class, Max Allen, United States Navy. Midshipman second class, Rolando Andor, United States Navy.
Thank you.
Midshipman fourth class, Bill McCady. Midshipman second class, Justin Zemzer. Midshipman first class, Juan Jimenez. And my father, Walter B. Waller, was served in World War II.
Anyone over there?
Airman first class, Ronnie Jennings, Navy. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. One more, King? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Major Harvey Hughes, Navy, Sustained, United States Marine Corps.
Thank you. Anyone back here? No? We can just bow our heads then, and just in a reflection of those names that we ran for and read tonight, and those that were spoken tonight as well, and certainly those unspoken and those we are yet to read out loud on our next 9 days to Arlington Cemetery. One of the other things that is special to us that we're able to do occasionally, not as often as we'd like, is, you know, the organization is about national remembrance. I mean, I think I've made that point pretty clear. And remembering individually by name is something that is extra important to us, because when we began the organization, and we were looking for the national symbol. By the way, the flag has now been adopted in 24 states officially by legislation as the state symbol of remembrance in 24 states. North Carolina is one of them. So actually a lot of bordering states: North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, a lot of the East Coast states. Very proud of that, and one day we'll have all 50. But remembering individually by name is something that's always been very important to us. And we do that in a very unique and special way. do that with a specially prepared flag. This is an honor and remember flag that has been hand sewn and prepared especially for one family. It's a personalized flag. And these flags are given through the organization and through many others by request. This is not something that we do usually for a family unless they request it in the last 10 years. 3,000 of which we have presented. My mother again last night has been waiting for about 18 months already. Anyway, this flag is folded in a triangle because here is the American flag that was taken off the casket, reverently, respectfully folded into a triangle and encased in a shadow box as a gift from a thankful nation. But there it remains as a kind of a reminder of a loss, a horrible reminder. This flag is folded to mirror this American flag only one time because it's meant to be a national gift of appreciation, of thanks, a celebration of life, rather than a memorial of death. And we've prepared a special flag tonight, and I would like to ask Jake to come up first. Jake has a few words before we call up the family.
Hello, everybody. Let me tell you a story about a man, Matthew Charles Llewellyn. He was born one of 3 children to Chuck and Cindy Llewellyn in a humble town in northeast Missouri. They raised him to be grateful for the blessings that he had. I met him in 2nd grade, and our sense of humor was had us destined to be lifelong friends. That friendship would stand the test of time and distance. After high school, Matt and I parted ways, and I went to college in Columbia, and he went to college in Lawrence, Kansas. But he would always come home for the holidays, and my birthday is Christmas Eve. And he would always make sure to come out and at least take me out for a beer on my birthday at a local place that was open. And I'm sure our families did notice that we were opening presents a little slow and hazy-eyed the next morning. During college, I was able to obtain an internship in Topeka, Kansas. And I was able to sublease that summer the apartment that Matt was staying in. And so, like good friends do, we just fired back up where we started from. Matt was working a rigorous part-time schedule at Petco, and part-time at a local softball complex. He was serving beer and hot dogs to patrons. I got home from my internship one day when I was working, and I've been working long hours and in the heat, and came home, and Matt was on the couch eating cereal and with a blanket over him. And I said, so how many classes you taking next semester, Matt? And he said, I don't think I'm going to take any. I think I'm going to take the semester off. I said, oh, okay. He goes, yeah, I think I'm going to join the Army. I said, oh, nice. I go, what do your parents think about it? He goes, I haven't told them yet. And that was just the kind of guy Matt was. But I don't want to give him the impression that he was lazy, because the next day he had a weighted pack and he was out and he was putting in the work that it was going to require to get through what he wanted to do. Chuck informed me that maybe if I told him that they get out of bed before noon in the Army, he might have thought twice at that point. Chuck even drove out to try to talk him out of it, but he knew that at that point, when he saw him at the door, when he drove out the long trip from Kirksville to Lawrence, that he had his mind set and he wasn't going to be able to talk him out of it. After that summer, we kind of went back to our limited contact. He was starting to go through the military proceedings, and I was still trying to get through college. But we still upheld our holiday traditions with the utmost of discipline. Matt would go on to pass the Q course and become a United States Army Green Beret. He made it look easy, but so I always kind of took for granted how hard it really was for him, I'm sure, and all those other guys. But he always exercised that with the utmost of humility. we were pregnant. We come home about that time. It was the 4th of July. And I'll never forget the look I saw on his face. This is a man that didn't have any children. But I'll never forget when I told him that we were pregnant. He was so excited. He was so excited. That weekend was the last time that I saw him. But I'm proud to say that the family has allowed me to name my son Hartley Matthew Sevis to share his namesake. And I know that Matt looks down with that same smile on my family. So Matt's death left me reeling. And I had a lot of questions, and I know I'll never get the answers to those questions. There's one of them I do know the answer to. And the question was, where do we go from here? And the answer is forward. And it's hard. I can't even imagine what the family has to go through, but they do it on a daily basis, and you all do it too, and it's impressive to watch. I've dealt with mental health issues in my life, and I know that one of the gifts that Matt gave me when he passed away was the gift of how to deal with that and how to have mental fortitude to push forward. Because you can go two ways, and I went down for a while, but I went up. And I'm proud to say, and I hope that the Llewellyn family finds some solace in knowing that I am a better man than I was 2 years ago. And I promise right here today that I will raise my son with the same values and honor that you guys raised your son. So there's the story. He was a good man, and I'm proud to have known him. And I hope that this flag comes from our class.
Guys, come on this side. Face them. Go ahead. This honor and remember flag is presented with eternal gratitude and respect in memory of Sergeant First Class Matthew C. Llewellyn. With this flag, we honor this patriot's unwavering dedication and remember his selfless sacrifice. By displaying this symbol collectively as a nation, we humbly recognize the enormity of your loss and respectfully salute. You show it to me. You want to say anything? You don't have to do anything. Put you on the spot.
On behalf of you all, I appreciate it. Jake, and Mortis, it's still tough to go through, and the support that we've got means more than you'll ever know. So, several surprises this week. Yeah, thanks.
They're done, I think.
I know there are many Gold Star families in the room, and I'd like to recognize them all so that we all know who each other is. I don't know if some of you got to meet others on the road because people were at different markers. If you lost a loved one in service, could you just please stand so that we could identify and love you, and people can look across the way and we love you, all of you, and it means so much to us that you made the time to come be a part of this. So thank you.
for a day to honor those who have sacrificed for us. Your word says, greater love hath no man than to lay down his life for his friends. People in this room have had family members that laid down their lives for people they didn't even know. God, we thank you for their sacrifice. Now, Lord, we ask that you take this food, that you bless it to nourish our bodies, that you continue to strengthen us daily as we walk with you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Please have food.
And that concludes our ceremony for tonight. Thank you very much for watching.